Recently, I rediscovered a recording of Pansogor Rinpoche when he was giving a teaching back in 1996 on the Mahayana Vaipulya Sutra of total retention. Back in 1996, on the Tibetan calendar's June 4th, which is the Dharma Chakra Day, he had given the Bodhisattva vow, and then on the 5th of June, he bestowed an empowerment. Also, he gave the reading transmission. Did I take my medicine earlier? I did? I forgot. So I'm going to play the audio for you. At that time, many people gathered from different places to listen to the teaching of the sutra. So Pansogor Rinpoche said that whomsoever hears this teaching, it can dispel the obstacles and negative karmas, because we've probably made lots of the misdeeds of abandoning the Dharma. In order to purify all of these, we're going to listen to this teaching. If you've never slandered the Dharma, nor the teacher, nor praised self and slandering the others, or due to ignorance to violate the teachings of the Dharma, because these are the things that's very easy to violate, and now we've attained this body, people like such will have difficulty to be reborn in the Pure Land. So we need to learn what is the misdeed of abandoning the Dharma. Nowadays, many people from mainland had gathered here, from Uyghur, from Heilongjiang, the northern part of China, from also Beijing, Nanjing, Xi'an, from different parts of China, and Inner Mongolia also. Many people are here. Lots of the foreigners are here too, to listen to the Dharma. Other than the Tibetans, there are some Chinese monastics, about a few hundreds of them. So some of you are new. And for many people, if you don't understand the Tibetan language, if you can just pay attention and listen to it, you will be able to receive immeasurable merit and dispel the misdeeds of abandoning the Dharma. Though I'm reading in Tibetan language, but as long as you listen to this teaching, to this sutra, the merit is inconceivable. So receive it with respect. At the beginning of this teaching, Pansogor Rinpoche gave this short introduction of the sutra. Pansogor Rinpoche used probably 2 or 3 hours and finished the explanation or the teaching on this sutra. We're using more classes than that. Anyhow, I'm going to continue with this teaching. Not sure how many classes it's going to take. If I can finish this, I will give teaching on the sutra requested by Maitreya. The sutra requested by Maitreya was the sutra that's taught by Pansogor Rinpoche back in 1997. This sutra was taught in the summer back in 1996.
东巴特级讲了，给上次那就是我在你香港参加我特级上了，原来人民本组长了，所然都讲就多半跑了选举了，讲就多半跑了选举。
The unsurpassed, profound, and wonderful Dharma is difficult to encounter in billions of eons. I now see it, hear it, receive it, and uphold it, and vow to fathom the Tathagata's true meaning in order to liberate all sentient beings. Let us generate the supreme bodhicitta. Now let us begin the study of the Mahayana Vaipulya Sutra of Total Retention.
放光中自己嘛，放光中自己呢。
Well, in terms of this sutra,
这个公案大家一定要记住。
I hope that you remember the stories that's taught in the previous class, the story of Bhikshu Dharma and the Bhikshu Pure Life. They were the previous lives of Shakyamuni Buddha and Amitabha. Shakyamuni Buddha appeared to had slandered the Dharma when he was still at the causal stage, and because of that he had fallen into the three lower realms for a long period of time and experiencing immeasurable amount of pain. And when he attained the human body, he became he also was reborn without the full endowment of a human being. And for such reasons, we have to contemplate, because it is easy to make misdeeds, to create negative karma. You can do that, accumulate those negative deeds in a short period of time, but that fruition is quite horrifying. I've received the oral transmission before, and at that time, and later on listen to the audio again. Postkul Rinpoche, sometimes he would expand a little more, sometimes not, but because of the constraint of the time, he only taught the sutra in the time of 1 day of time. So Postkul Rinpoche didn't give quite extensive teaching in terms of this sutra. But Postkul Rinpoche said, whomsoever hears this teaching could dispel all the negative deeds of slandering Dharma in the previous life, which is quite important, especially in the later part of the teaching. Postkul Rinpoche emphasized that many Dharma teachers, many monastics and lay practitioners had violated such and had slandered the Dharma. Therefore, if we do not confess, if we do not purify, then we should definitely confess and purify now. With the contemplation and studying of the sutra with such power, we can definitely dispel all the misdeeds and negative karma that's accumulated from slandering the Dharma. This is quite crucial. Therefore, all of you who are sitting here, I really encourage you to study this sutra with full diligence. Whether you're sitting here or not, whichever method you're using to study this teaching, you will definitely be able to purify all the misdeeds of slandering the Dharma. Whomsoever get a chance to give teachings of the Dharma, you have to pay extra attention, especially towards the one who is expounding the teaching. Let it be a Dharma teacher, a Khenpo, or Khenmo, or a tutor, because they are the ones who's expounding the Dharma. Therefore, you should not criticize them, saying that, oh, this Khenpo is very good, this Khenpo or Khenmo speaks very well and very profound, I really like it, but I don't like the other one because he's very nagging and he doesn't teach very deeply, and he would give teachings of stories every day. Well, it seems that you're speaking of the simple languages, but maybe your criticize is violating such misconduct act of abandoning the Dharma. Because the Buddha said that Ananda, do not feel upset, do not be saddened. In the future time of the degenerated age, I will appear as the good spiritual teacher and I will benefit all of you. So all of the teachers, the Dharma teachers, are the ones are the manifestations of the Buddha. Maybe you see certain Dharma teachers, maybe this one doesn't look good and the other one doesn't teach good. Maybe the other person has greed and anger and ignorance in the mind stream, but we should not slander them, because through the language, the Vajra language of the Buddha, the teacher could be a manifestation of the Buddha himself. So slandering the Dharma teacher is slandering the Buddha, the Dharma, and slandering the three jewels, and such kind of misdeeds is immeasurable. Therefore, if you've made such kind of misdeed of slandering Dharma, you have to confess, you have to chant the Vajrasattva mantra, the 100 syllables mantra, and you have to confess by contemplating emptiness and try your best to control your own language. Sometimes we do create beneficial karma for ourselves. We can use our language and speech to praise the Buddha, praise the teacher, and we can chant mantra with our speech and create lots of positive deeds. But with our speech, we can also create lots of negative deeds, especially if we don't practice well and full of greed and anger and ignorance. Then all of the frivolous language and the evil languages can be spoken out and to slander the three jewels. Therefore, we should try our best to confess. And then let's look at the Sutra. The Sutra continues. So the Buddha said that furthermore, Ajita, in the time since I attained Buddhahood, with true wisdom, I have widely expounded the true Dharma to sentient beings. At the beginning, when the Buddha attained Buddhahood, he did not give teaching, but because of the request of the Brahmin and all of them, so that the Buddha first turned the wheel of the Dharma. Some said that the Buddha was turning the Dharma wheel in different Pure Lands. But we can definitely see that the Buddha with his supreme wisdom was turning the Dharma wheel for sentient beings, especially in this world, turned the Dharma wheel for 3 times for sentient beings and give the teachings of 84,000 Dharma teachings. And at that time, there are people, there are fools who neither believe nor accept the Buddha's words, just like the Bhikshu Dharma. Although he had read and recited 1,000 Mahayana Sutras. So just like the Bhikshu Dharma, how he was not happy about Bhikshu pure life, was slandering him that his action is unlike his name. In fact, even if there are the bodhisattvas of the first Bhumi or even the 10th Bhumi came here to turn the Dharma wheel, the people with impure perceptions, they can find all kinds of problems and all kinds of issues and slander them. So when Shakyamuni Buddha, who is perfect in all the wisdom and all the merits and had eradicated all the obstacles, when he came to the human realm and gave teachings, there are so many people who slandered him as well. And he said that the Buddha said that although he had read and recited 1,000 Mahayana Sutras, explained them to others and attained 4 dhyanas, because of his slander of others, over here refers to how he slandered the Bhikshu pure life in the past life. He underwent dreadful suffering for 70 kalpas. So we can see Bhikshu Dharma, though he had read 1,000 volumes of the sutra and give teachings to them, and then also attend the fourth dhyana, but because of slandering of the Bhikshu pure life, he underwent lots of suffering. On top of that, he says that I am a great teacher, and the others are not great Dharma teachers. I can understand the Mahayana Dharma's content. I can understand all of the teachings of the Mahayana Dharma, but the other person did not give teaching of the Mahayana, but the teaching is Hinayana. His teaching is not in accordance with the actual teaching. I can propagate widely of the correct Dharma and to spread the Dharma to the whole wide world, but he cannot do so, and that is slandering. With jealousy, there are people who would do so. They would say that maybe they themselves are not qualified to be a Dharma teacher, but they would slander the others are not qualified teachers. They would slander the teachers or the lay practitioners, the monastics, or whomsoever propagates the Dharma. So he would feel very he would feel very arrogant about himself, and because of that, such kind of foolish people even slander the Mahayana Dharma as little as a verse that is of 4 sentences will definitely be reborn in the lower realms. If we were to say that killing or murdering is a severe crime, but usually that is to one person, but if that person could confess with the 4 kinds of powers, then such kind of misconduct or negative karma can be purified. But to slander the Mahayana Dharma can destroy many people's life of faith or life of wisdom. That is quite horrifying. Especially nowadays, there are people who would create or would write the false information and would write false writings that has wrong opinions and would spread that on internet or on different platforms, which would lead innumerable beings into the wrong path. And such kind of karmic retribution would last for so many years that is incalculable and would stay in the lower realms without any chance of liberation. So that is quite scary. We're not praising self and slandering the others, but whomsoever could encounter the true and good spiritual teacher such as Ponsokro Rinpoche and his lineage, we definitely understand what is the most important part, most fundamental aspect of Buddhism. This is quite crucial because out of all the teachings of the Buddha Dharma, the content is quite all-encompassing. In a short period of time, it's very difficult to understand all of them. But if we can meet a true spiritual teacher, then we can understand the pith of it. The ones who has right mindfulness would definitely understand the importance of protecting one's 3 gates. And for the ones, the foolish ones, without any real knowledge of the Dharma, if they were to slander even a 4-verse stanza in the Buddha's Mahayana teaching, know that for this karma, they will definitely fall into hell. Over here, such as the Mahayana teaching, such as the The ones who's born would definitely die. The ones who's at a high place would definitely fall. The ones who had gathered would definitely disperse, and the ones who had gathered would definitely be exhausted. All of these kind of teachings, if one were to say something, some teachings like such is unreasonable, is not meaningful, is not profound, then this is slandering the Dharma. In Chinese Buddhism, in terms of Pure Land and Zen Buddhism, you cannot say that the Pure Land is good, but the Zen school is not. This is slandering the Dharma. Because to the ones who have the capacity of to study the Zen Buddhism, then Zen Buddhism is perfect. And for the ones who has the capacity to study Pure Land Buddhism, then Pure Land Buddhism is wonderful. And in Tibetan Buddhism, there are Gelugpa, Sakyapa, Nyingmapa, all of them is the same. To each sentient beings, they have different connection to different Dharma. Then whichever Dharma they have connection to, that would be the best. Just as a different medicine would cure different illness, that's the same. Once I went abroad, and someone said that I in fact think that everyone's teaching is great. So I met that teacher in France, and he said that every guru has their method. I think everyone teaches really well. This is very helpful to me because everyone's opinion is very different. Someone pays great attention to Madhyamika and someone to Tantrayana teachings. Some favors more of Mipa Rinpoche's teachings and some Lam. So we should really look inwardly, look at our own mind rather than outside, rather than look at others. And then over here continues. It says that why? Because they malign the Buddha Dharma and Dharma masters. For these causes and conditions, they will always walk the evil life path, never to see Buddhas and the Dharma and the Sangha. In fact, I think the teaching over here is similar. I think I tried to cross-reference with the Tibetan version and took a long time with that. I think the translation's version is a little bit different, but I tried to explain it with the Chinese language. This particular version, I'm glad I chose this version because if we were to use the Dharma Raksha's version, it would be very difficult to explain. The reason behind is that slandering the Buddha and the Dharma and the Dharma teachers will lead to the rebirth of the three lower realms and never see the Buddha, and that is because one had slandered the three jewels. This particular sutra does not have all those inferences that is taught in the Buddhism logics, nor does it have any of those profound teachings of Madhyamika. But this teaching is simply to remind the sentient beings not to slander the Dharma, because we may have already violated so many times but not knowing it at all. Last time, as we already studied, that many bodhisattvas started crying because they had violated. So the Buddha also asked them, "Why did you cry?" Upon knowing why they cried, the bodhisattva said that I feel that I've already made this misdeed. And at the time, Ponsu Rinpoche also cried and shed tears and said that he spent his whole life giving teachings of Mahayana Dharma, but after looking at this sutra and cross-referencing with this sutra, and he found lots of the mistakes he had violated early on. Therefore, he spent lots of time to confess. Many of people over here probably had already given teachings for over 20 years. Have you ever violated this? Have you ever slandered the Dharma or abandoned the Dharma? If so, I think it's probably better not to be a Dharma teacher. If you're not a Dharma teacher, if you were to just chant the Vajrasattva mantra, you won't violate all of these. But some teachers, when they are debating, when they're propagating the Dharma, sometimes if they were to slander the other schools to praise oneself or one's own schools of Dharma teaching, then that is definitely a very severe misconduct. So you should definitely confess wholeheartedly for these kinds of misconducts. Slandering the Dharma can also create obstacles for those who have recently activated the Bodhi mind, causing them to abandon the right path. Because people have this herd mentality. Just look at the United States elections right now. Whenever we hear that certain things is going to happen with the Trump followers, if the Biden followers are doing so and so, we can see people's reactions are very much led by others' emotions and others' speech. So all of these kind of groups of mundane beings are not reliable. It applies to politics in this world, and the same as any community. Even if someone is a good master, if someone started to say that master is not good, and then people without any observation for themselves, they would start slandering that master as well. So in Tibet, we can see that things happen also in a similar way between the monasteries, between abbots, and between different schools and sectarianism, all different kinds of conflicts like such. If the masters have problems and difficulties with the others, then the followers would also follow them and have conflicts, which could lead to negative karmic retributions. So know that those who adorn themselves with enormous sinful karmas will fall into hell to receive horrendous requitals for immeasurable kalpas. Fixing an evil eye on one who has activated the Bodhi mind will result in the requitals of no eyes. So become blind. We see lots of people who are blind nowadays. On one hand, we do feel pitiful for them, but on the other, they heap what they sow. They must have created lots of negative karmas in their previous lives. Slandering one who has activated the Bodhi mind will result in the requitals of no tongue, for limitless kalpas, for immeasurable kalpas. So no tongues also refers to the kind of people who slur a lot. They can't speak with good. They may create sound, but nobody could understand them. There are lots of people who don't have good speech either.
就这个是也是那个就很这个可怕的啊，就是说是
This is definitely quite a horrendous karmic retribution as well.
这个大家前面都应该知道，就是那么佛陀告诉
And then the Buddha told Ajita, saying that I have never seen an evil dharma graver than the sin of sabotaging others' activation of the Bodhi mind.
意思是他就佛陀呢，就是他
Meaning
用
that
他的智慧眼来
with
就是观察
the
的是，
wisdom
其实我
eye,
们实践当中的话呢，最可怕的
the
恶业是
Buddha
什么呢？就是这个破
see
坏
that
别人
there
这
is
个
no
法不
other
信
dharma,
就是
there is
那
no
么这
other
个
action that is
这个
worse
罪呢，就是
than
特别的可怕，
destroying
就
the
任何罪
activation
当
of
中
the
都是
Bodhi
没有
mind.
更可怕的了啊，就是
There
没有
is
更
no
可怕
other
的。
sin that
一次
is
罪
more
的缘故呢，
horrendous
就是
than
他堕入
such,
这个恶
than
道
this
当
one.
中啊，就是因为
Even for this
不管
sin,
怎么样，
one
让
will
别
go
人这个
down
产
the
生
evil
恶念
life
也好，
path.
或者是
Even
破坏别
graver
人
is
这
the
个
sin
良法
of
不信
slandering the
这样的
bodhisattvas.
那更何况说是这个毁坏，就是其他菩萨等啊，就是毁坏其他菩萨的话，那就是更不用说了，因为
It would be
如果让
even
他不让发
graver
菩提
if the
心的话，
sin
那就
is
是
to
那这个罪过
slandering
都
the
是特别大的。
bodhisattvas.
所有的罪当中
It
呢，
would
别
be
人就是
It would be quite horrendous if you were to stop someone to activate the Bodhi mind or to retrogress on the Bodhi path. Such kind of negative deed or such kind of negative karmic retribution would be quite horrendous. Especially, or on top of that, if you were to slander someone who already activated the Bodhi mind, or Bodhisattva that is, then such kind of evil or such kind of negative karma would be even more severe than the previous one. Therefore, the Buddha said that the most horrendous negative karma is to create obstacles for the others to generate the Bodhi mind. But such kind of horrendous actions are very easily to be carried out. For example, if we were to see someone who's turning the wheel of Dharma to a group of people, and we can easily just slander him, saying that, oh, this Dharma teacher is a charlatan, you shouldn't believe him. And then all of a sudden, even if there are people who had already generated Bodhi mind under his teaching, could lose that Bodhi mind. And in such a way, we can create such negative karma to ourselves and the others. So in the world nowadays, in fact, slandering is not considered as such a very horrible illicit action, as long as you do not violate the law. In fact, if you were to use your language to slander others or to criticize others, it is not treated as a severe violation. But from the aspect of karma, especially slandering the Dharma and slandering the Dharma teacher, this is quite severe. Bodhisattvas should explain the Dharma truthfully to sentient beings without holding the wrong views, such as perpetuity or cessation. The definite existence or definite non-existence of sentient beings, or the existence or non-existence of the Dharmas. In fact, as we said earlier, some sentient beings, they can understand and they can be benefited through the teachings of emptiness. But there are sentient beings who can be benefited through the teachings of everything's existence. So we should not only teach, or we should not only teach with emptiness or with existence. We should not hold on to existence nor non-existence. We cannot just have only one way of explaining the Dharma. This is quite important. Some teachers, they really like Zen Buddhism, or some really prefer the teachings on emptiness. They probably feel that emptiness is the best Dharma teaching of all, and the others are not. But do not force your own likes, your own preference upon the others. Some teachers, I really encourage you not to be too self-centered. Do not force your own likes to the others. There are teachers who really enjoy learning English, and they would say that everyone would start studying English because English is really important. Or some teachers would say that studying Tibetan language is the most important. We're going to study Kapagama, and I'm not going to give teachings from today onwards. You're going to study the Tibetan alphabets. Some teachers, they really like Zen Buddhism, and they really like meditation. They would say that from today onwards, I'm not going to give any teachings. We're going to only practice sitting meditation. In fact, there are people who are just like you, who would probably like whatever you're practicing, and there are people who probably don't, who probably won't be benefited through your likings, your preferences. The teachers should follow the teaching style of the previous masters, and then in between, you can have some flexibility. You can have some space where you can express your own ideas, or you can add something. But in terms of the propagation of the five treatises and all the key teachings of Sutrayana and Tantrayana, we should have a framework of the style style of the previous master's teachings. If a teacher only stick on to his or her own point of view or preference, such as I really like Zen Buddhism or Madhyamika, or really do not like mantra and do not like any of those worldly teachings, and ask everyone to study emptiness and do not practice mantra, there are people who probably have the same kind of capacity as you, would maybe understand emptiness, but there are people who probably won't. There are people who only likes chanting, only likes to prostrate to the Buddha, only likes smoke offering and all those rituals, and they really appreciate the animation, the Buddhism animation and Buddhism movies. So we should try to use different ways to benefit people. There are people who really like emptiness, but because others don't really prefer only emptiness, and then they would started to slander. Look at that master; he only gives teachings of the stories, and it's really bad. And maybe the Dharma teacher who gives stories only would say that, look at him, only give teachings on emptiness. Is he really enlightened? Has he really understood emptiness? Look, he still eats, and he's still haven't attained the understanding of emptiness at all. In Vinaya Sutra, it says that there was once a bhikshu who was sick, and there was a nurse as well as a doctor who was taking care of him. And the Buddha sneezed over there in front of them, and in front of the different people, the sound of a sneeze benefited different people in different ways. The doctor, through the sneezing sound, attained or gained faith and made aspiration of practicing his medical work. And then the nurse made aspiration of taking care of the patient, and the patient made aspiration of listening to the doctor. Therefore, in this teaching, the Buddha's sneezing, though it's not considered as the turning of the Dharma wheel, but the sentient beings get different benefits. Therefore, we can see that to teach different capacities with different teachings is really important. To teach accordingly is very important. When you are propagating the Dharma, you have to understand your audience's capacities. Everyone's capacity is different, and their preference, their habits, even their eating habits are very different. There are people, though everyone seems like they have a pair of eyes and one nose and everything looks kind of similar, but their capacities are very different. If you were to give teachings of the ones who prefer emptiness and give teachings on the Buddha nature, could he gain benefit as much? It's very hard to understand. It's very hard to predict. So we should understand that. We should definitely teach accordingly. To continue in the Sutra, Ajita, those who are learning to be Bodhisattvas should abide in this way. Abiding in this way is a pure and good karma of Bodhisattvas. They do not cling to what they train in or learn. If sentient beings cling to anything, know that they will be reborn in the world of the five turbidities. Therefore, there are bodhisattvas who excel in pronouncing the Dharma in various ways to sentient beings according to their natures and desires. Indeed, the bodhisattvas should pronounce the different dharmas according to the different sentient beings and their different capacities. This is quite important, because if you don't give the different teachings accordingly, then it would be very difficult to liberate them or benefit them at all. According to Avatamsaka Sutra, it says that it is important to distinguish the different dharmas. However, we should not grasp onto the characteristic of the Dharma. We should understand all dharmas, but our mind should not be tinted by them. In other words, we make differentiations in relative, but in ultimate, we understand everything is emptiness. Emptiness does not tint this mind that is this relative mind. So this is really the basics of the basis of Buddhism. As we said before, we need to understand the differences between relative and ultimate. In relative, everything appears, everything exists, and in ultimate, it is emptiness. So some of the sentient beings, they can accept the teachings mainly based on emptiness. They can accept the teachings of the ultimate, and some can only accept the teachings of the relative. And once you talk about the emptiness to a group of sentient beings who can only accept relative, then they would get scared. Therefore, bodhisattvas need to give various teachings to different beings with different capacities. In our world, there are different traditions and different schools. For example, there's the Tibetan, there's the Chinese Buddhism, there's the Theravada, and different kinds of schools and from different areas. We shouldn't think even for a moment that they are different than us. Therefore, they are inferior than us. We shouldn't think in such a way at all, because all of these teachings are the supreme medicine that would give teachings to different beings. The Chinese Buddhism would tame the beings who have such a capacity to receive the medicine that's offered by the Chinese Buddhism. Similarly, towards our view towards other religions, such as Christianity, such as Islam, such as Judaism, all of these great three major religions, we need to think in such a way. They have their intentions and they have their ways of benefiting others. In this way, our sacred outlook would be accomplished, and then our arrogance would be conduced. So as practitioners, it is quite important to practice pure vision, pure mind. Otherwise, we will create lots of unnecessary misconduct. The Buddha continued to say that Ajita bodhisattvas who practice all six paramitas in this way will be able to attain the unsurpassed Bodhi. According to the Madhyamikavatara, it says that it is just like how the one who has vision would be able to lead immeasurable numbers of blind men to the other shore. They're just like that. Wisdom could lead the ones who do not have the eyes to attain the supreme fruition. The Mahaprajna Paramita Shastra also says that Prajna Paramita, the Prajna Paramita as the guidance, and the five paramitas as the companion. Without Prajna Paramita, the other five paramitas are like the blinds. Should we understand it in the way how it is described? No, we shouldn't, because over here it says that the wisdom is quite important, but in fact, all the other five paramitas should have Prajna Paramita too, so that they can take all the other five paramitas. But this is not the appropriate way of understanding it. Because the Buddha over here says that the fools who believe in that they fix it on may say that these words, the bodhisattvas should practice Prajna Paramita only. Do not learn the other paramitas, because Prajna Paramita is the supreme one. The statement is incorrect. Because the Buddha over here then quoted from a story that in the past, when King Kashaka was training to be a bodhisattva, he abandoned his head, eyes, bone marrows, and brain, which he cherished. Did this king not have any wisdom? Maitreya replied to the Buddha, in fact, over here we can see that the Buddha said that there are people who said that the 5 paramitas are inferior, therefore we don't need to pursue them, we just need to pursue the prajna paramita. But according to the Mahaprajna Paramita Sutra, on the 10th volume, it says that if one were to surpass the Shravakas, the Pratika Buddhas, if one were wanting to attain fruition, one should study Prajna Paramita. But over here, it didn't say that the other paramitas is not important. It is not to say that the Shravakas and the Pratika Buddhas don't need the other 5 paramitas. It doesn't mean that at all, because over here, such as this King Kashaka, who had given his head and eyes and bone marrows and his cherished body to the others with a sense of generosity. When he practiced generosity, there are no prajna paramita. In fact, over here, Maitreya Bodhisattva replied to the Buddha saying that, World Honored One, truly as your holiness has said, he has wisdom. And the Buddha told Ajita, I practiced all 6 paramitas fully for an immeasurable amount of time. If I had not practiced all 6 paramitas fully, I would not have attained the unsurpassed devotee. Indeed, World Honored One. So over here, Maitreya also agreed to the Buddha. The Buddha then continued to tell Ajita, saying that, as you say, in the past I practiced Dana Paramita, Shila Paramita, Kshanti Paramita, Virya Paramita, Dhyana Paramita, and Prajna Paramita, each for 60 kalpas. So for 60 kalpas, he practiced on each of the paramitas. During the causal stage of the Buddha, he did not practice only 1 paramita, he practiced all 6 paramitas. When we practice, I think we should practice according to the teachings of Phuntsok Rinpoche. He said that we should practice in the both ways. What are the both ways? According to the 6 paramita, the wisdom paramita, that is emptiness, that is the provision of wisdom, and the other 4 are the provision of merit. So we need both of the provisions. We definitely need to have, on top of that, we need to have diligence. To the 6 paramitas, we should not abandon any of them. We need dana, we need generosity, we need shila, that is precept, we need then perseverance, we need also forbearance and meditation, that is dhyana. So all of them, we definitely also need wisdom, prajna paramita as well. Those people who practice meditation, who practice shila, that is precept, I think we should not abandon those practices at all. Otherwise, it is just like when we studied Madhyamika, there are people who said that there is no use of practicing upholding the precept. There is no use of practicing generosity. You can eat meat. You can do whatever you like. There are lots of people who claim that they have the crazy meditation, crazy Zen, crazy wisdom. All of those people think very highly about themselves. It sounds really good. It sounds that they understood the highest understanding or attained the highest fruition, and they can memorize and chant all of those verses that's posed by the previous Zen masters. But they because they don't have any foundations of listening contemplation. So it is just like that. They're abiding in the mid-air. There is no solid foundation at all. In different groups, different communities, there are different styles. For example, in some communities, people don't carry their malas. Out of hundreds of disciples, you can't even see one that carries a mala. And then I would think that why don't they chant mantras? Why don't they have malas? And then I need to change my mind, and I think that no, I shouldn't think in such a way, because they have their style, they have their tradition. We should not think of ourselves as the only standard to pose our standard upon the others. And then those fools falsely claim that one can attain Bodhi by practicing paramita only. There is nothing right about their claim, because they embrace the view of void. They expound the Dharma with such impurity. If someone who only upholds the view of void, only emphasizing on the emptiness aspect, then that person is just like the Bhikshu Dharma. And saying that you don't need merit, you don't need to make confession, you don't need to accumulate any provisions and merits, that is quite a horrid way of propagating the Dharma. That is impure. That is the impure way of teaching the Dharma. The Tapo Rinpoche also said that if one were not to practice the Dharma in such a way, then in the proper way, then the correct Dharma will become the cause of being reborn in the three lower realms. It is not worth it. It shouldn't be practiced in this way. The body, voice, and mind of those speakers contradict the Dharma. As they explain to the others, their understanding of emptiness, they do not act according to their words. Without corresponding actions, they are far from the true meaning of emptiness, even more than their kinfolk. They harbor jealousy and are attached to benefits and worships. So those people who in fact harbor jealousy and grasp onto fame and wealth, also they want to have their retinues, have a great horde of retinues. In fact, their practice is not really in accordance with their view. They can talk all about emptiness, they can pay all this kind of lip service, but their practice are not really benefiting their life. It is not meaningful. If we practice the union of emptiness and wisdom, if we practice in such a way and develop sacred outlook and pure mind, as well as developing profound understanding of the Dharma in such a way, the three poisons of one's mind stream will decrease. The thoughts of grasping onto fame and benefits will be uprooted. The grasping towards friends and kinship, as well as retinues, all of those kinds of relative view will decrease, and all of those transmundane insights will develop, and slowly that would result to the propagation of benefiting sentient beings, and such kind of actions would be more and more vast. This is just natural, as Venerable Padampa stated, this is just natural, and that's what would happen. If one were to truly understand emptiness, one will not create negative karma. This is natural, because understanding emptiness, even if one were to be lured by fame and benefits and retinues and kinship and all the 8 worldly dharmas, that person will not create any negative deeds, because he had understood the true meaning of emptiness. But if one were not able to understand emptiness, then that person will break the auspicious dependent origination. That's then the Mara's teaching, and that person will not be able to benefit the sentient beings. The Buddha continued to say that Ajita, when I was a wheel-turning king, I abandoned jewels, my head, my eyes, my hands, and my feet, but still could not attain the unsurpassed Bodhi. By contrast, fools for the sake of food and drinks visit others' homes to make their statement. They only praise the Dharma of emptiness and claim that what they say is the Bodhi way and the Bodhisattva's action, and that only this Dharma is the true Dharma, while all the other Dharmas are not. They also would say such words that my understanding has been realized and known to be innumerable Dharma masters. But they speak of this for the sake of fame and to praise themselves. So those people would say that I completely understand all the Dharma. I completely understand or realize the understandings that is realized by the innumerable Dharma masters, and praise oneself at the same time to slander the others with hatred and jealousy. In fact, over here the Buddha continued to say that Ajita, I see those who set their minds on seeking benefits and worship for a livelihood. Even if they take good actions for 100 kalpas, they will not develop even a little endurance in dharmas, much less attain the unsurpassed Bodhi. So up till here, the Buddha taught that if one were to attain the Bodhi, like the Buddha, in fact, it also took a long period of time. It takes a long time to practice generosity, to practice diligence and endurance, and all of those 6 paramitas. It's not that easy. All of those kind of stories of the Buddha's of the Buddha during the causal stage were included in the extensive biography of Shakyamuni Buddha. Whenever you have time, you should look at it. Out of all the 6 paramitas and the 10,000s of actions, there are one story that demonstrates all of those. And then to continue, the Buddha taught 7 kinds of give the 7 teachings. And the Buddha said that Ajita, I do not pronounce Bodhi to the deceitful ones. So he said that I do not give teachings to the ones who are deceitful, who are quite manipulative. According to the Shakya aphorism, it says that there are people who think of one thing but speak of another. That is considered considered as the ones who are deceitful, and that is like how the foolish ones who pretend to be scholars. There are lots of people like that. Lots of politicians are like that. But on the other extreme, the Buddhists sometimes would say that, oh, I'm too straightforward. I shouldn't be like this. Nowadays, people would say that. On one hand, they try to praise themselves. But there are people who have some agendas. With some agendas, they would speak of something else to deceive others. And those are the ones who cannot be taught, or not who are not the vessel to receive the Mahayana teachings. Over here, the Buddha taught the seven types, and I think you should look at it and see who is not the kind of proper vessel. We sometimes always say that we will always consider ourselves as the proper vessel to receive the Bodhi or to receive the teachings. But look at our speech and look at our actions. Are they still like the mundane beings? Are we like the ones who are we really like the ones, the politicians who would speak one thing but do another? I used to think that the Western countries are very free and they have democracy and that's all wonderful. But then after arriving or after visiting those places, I found that there is no other teachings that's better than Mahayana Buddhism. There is nothing that is more altruistic than Mahayana Buddhism. I know that many of you probably had been to many places before, but I'm not sure if you can understand it in a deep way. I myself, I really like visiting different places. I like to know their management, their development of economy. I have lots of interest. I think that's a very good thing. That's a very good thing about me, because there are people who are very interested in the studying of emptiness, but not interested in the relative knowledge. I am interested in all kinds of knowledge. I'm interested in English, though it seems that I'm not able to study it well, but I still like it. I like fashion design, drawing, and I also like architecture design. I like all of them. I can't say that I know all of them, which is quite pitiful, because life is short. Because I spend a lot of time herding yaks and spend all my best years on the mountains. Anyhow, over here it says that the mundane beings in this world, once they enter Mahayana, the mundane beings are like such. But once we've already entered into the Mahayana path and study Mahayana Buddhism, we should try our best to correct our previous habits. And the second one is that those who are jealous. So jealousy is something that could put impetus to people to create lots of unnecessary conflicts and obstacles. And there are people who, like Devadatta, though understand lots of the teachings, but because of jealousy, they cannot gain any benefits. And the third one is that those who are arrogant and disrespectful, according to Mahaprajna Paramita Shastra, it says that one who is arrogant will not be able to receive the Dharma ring in the vessel. well. Just as if one who is arrogant, the water of merit will not be able to enter into their hearts. Just like wearing a raincoat, even if the rain is pouring, it won't get them even a little bit moist. So the ones who's very arrogant just simply look at their expressions. Their expressions are very clearly showing that they're arrogant. There are people who think that they're PhDs and they have master degrees, and lots of university graduates, they feel that they're so great. But nowadays there are lots of people who have those degrees. There's nothing to be arrogant about. On the other hand, there are the ones who have doctorate degrees who are very humble and would study from Dharma masters who only got probably who only graduated from elementary schools. And the fourth one, it is those who are faithless, the ones who do not have any faith at all. It doesn't matter how much you try to teach them, they would not be able to receive the teachings properly to their mind. Just like there are dark places that's covered, even the sunlight cannot get through. The Buddhists without faith, I think they would feel that this particular sutra is meaningless. There's nothing to study about this sutra. But the ones with faith, they would feel that this is the Vajra speech, this is the lineage teachings from the Buddha, from the previous masters, then it would definitely be able to benefit them, and it will. This is it shows that the roots of the virtue is faith. The fifth one is that nor the ones who are untamed. There are sentient beings who have such stubborn personality and very difficult to tame them. They don't listen to anybody. They can be very rude and very coarse at the beginning, but after studying teachings such as Words of My Perfect Teacher, slowly their minds are tamed, just like cotton. The sixth one is for those who engage in sexual misconduct, who have lots of desire. According to the great Jewel Keep Sutra, it says that the ones who are dwelled in desire, they are walking on the opposite way of virtue. Similarly, in the Shurangama Sutra, it says that if one were not to uproot the desire, then that person cannot be liberated from samsara. The seventh one is those who believe in that they are right and others wrong. So these kind of people feel that they are right at all times, and they feel that they have more wisdom than Buddha. They have full faith in that. They feel that, oh, this is right and the other one's wrong, and only himself is right. And for these kind of people, they probably won't be able to benefit from the Bodhi, from the teachings of the enlightened knowledge, because they're too self-confident, self-important, and they feel that they're the most supreme out of all, and everyone else is inferior. For these kind of people, usually they don't receive lots of respect from the others. On the other hand, if one has lots of wisdom, but that wisdom is hidden, or that wisdom is more more deepened in one's heart. But slowly people will be able to discover the wisdom, and then naturally people will develop a lot of respect towards that kind of person. Otherwise, if there are people who speak really nicely, who only pay lip service but don't practice in such a way, they don't earn respect from the others. Therefore, we should observe ourselves from the 7 aspects. On one hand, we should not give them teachings of the Bodhi because they don't have a good connection with the Bodhi. On the other, we should use this 7 to observe ourselves. This is quite important. If one who is deceitful, who speaks of something but practice the other, or the one who have lots of jealousy, the ones who is very arrogant and do not have faith, and the ones who is very difficult to tame, the ones who is very arrogant, and those kind of people don't have connection to the Bodhi, because these people would feel very self-important and probably can't even find a proper job in the world. Even after finding a job, they will get dispelled from the work, and they would travel around and career hopping from one to another. So that really shows a sense of instability of the personality. There are people who would say that, I'm really great. What's so great about Buddha? Look at the people who would say such things online. So the Buddha said over here, Ajita, those fools out of arrogance claim that they have surpassed the Buddha. They malign Mahayana sutras pronounced by the Buddha, alleging that these are actually pronounced by voice hearers riding the small vehicle. According to Dharma Raksha's translation, it is a little bit different. He says that the Buddha does not give teachings of the Shravakas. And the Tibetan version says that the Shravakas and Pradika Buddha's teachings are not taught by the Buddha. So in different translations, there are different meanings, it seems. But the general meaning is that let it be Mahayana or Theravada. If one were to say that these are not taught by the Buddha, it is not. This is not true. The sentient beings in this degenerated age, there are people who have no wisdom at all, but still think that they're more supreme than the Buddha. There are people who practice some yoga and would say that the Buddha is not omniscient, but I am, in order to attract disciples. But those are the foolish ones. We should observe with wisdom. So these kind of teachings we should understand, and we should stop here.